Alright, the case is prepped and looking stunning. Now it's time to turn our attention to the heart of the watch, the movement. Before we can service it properly, we need to begin with disassembly, and that starts with removing the hands. To protect the dial, I place a thin sheet of plastic from a Ziploc bag over it. Then, using a pair of hand levers, I gently lift the hands off. Once they are free, I carefully move them aside and store them safely. This Zenith has a stunning blue dial, and it is in remarkably good condition. With the case now restored, pairing it with this dial is going to look absolutely incredible. I genuinely can't wait to see the final result. But first, we need to remove the dial from the movement. I locate the tiny screws that secure the dial fits and carefully unscrew them. There are 2 in total, and in most vintage movements, this is the standard method for keeping the dial firmly seated. Once they are loose, the dial can be gently lifted away, revealing the mechanics underneath. Next, I insert the stem. It will come in handy later during disassembly. Now it's time to dismount the rotor. To do that, I need to unscrew 2 screws positioned near its center. Luckily, there's a special access hole in the rotor itself, designed to let you reach those screws without removing other components. Alright, let's release the power from the mainspring. Oh, I almost forgot. Before I can do that, I need to dismount the automatic gear train. These gears are still engaged and holding tension in the mainspring, so if I skip this step, the power won't release. There are 3 screws holding down the automatic winding mechanism plate. I will go ahead and unscrew them, set them aside, and gently lift off the plate. Underneath the plate are the gears responsible for transferring energy from the rotor to the mainspring. These gears are under tension, so the first one needs to be removed with extra care. It's like releasing a spring-load latch. Once that's safely out, the rest of the gears can be removed more easily, without any resistance. Now we can finally release the tension from the mainspring. I'm holding the crown firmly to control the mainspring's stored energy. While I'm holding it, I gently swing back the click. As I do that, I can immediately feel the tension transferring to the crown. From here, I slowly let the crown unwind, one careful turn at a time, allowing the mainspring to release its energy safely. As the energy is released, watch closely. The balance wheel, which was oscillating just moments ago, comes to an immediate stop. From here, we are working with a fully unwound mechanism, which means we can safely continue the disassembly. See you in a few seconds. Once the movement is taken apart, it has to be cleaned, not just on the surface, but deep down at the chemical level. It's a step many underestimate, yet it accounts for nearly a third of a successful movement survives. Each part must be completely free of odd oils, dust, and most importantly, any trace of cleaning fluids. The choice of cleaning and rinsing solutions isn't just a detail, it's critical. Good choice of fluids dissolve dirt without harming delicate components, but too aggressive ones? They can eat away a shellac on the palette and balance jewels, causing silent damage that won't show until it's too late. The right solution doesn't just clean, it restores. It leaves oxidation, shows that soft metallic sheen, and makes even vintage parts look like they were machined yesterday. Cleaning is where precision begins. Now we can start assembling the movement, beginning with the barrel assembly. But which direction should the mainspring fit into the barrel? The fastest way to check the mainspring direction is to take a photo of the barrel interior during disassembly. But I will show you how to figure it out without relying on any photos. We will start by installing the center wheel, the one that connects directly to the barrel. Once it's seated properly, we move on to the barrel itself. Place the barrel into position and check whether its orientation allows the barrel teeth to mesh cleanly with the center wheel. If it doesn't sit flush or the gears fail to engage, flip it over and try again. Once we've confirmed the correct position of the barrel, we can determine which side of the movement the ratchet wheel belongs to. You can check this by looking at the opposite side of the main plate or inspecting the barrel bridge. In this movement, the ratchet wheel is located on the side we are currently working on. That means the barrel shaft must have a hole for a screw on this side to secure the ratchet wheel properly. With that knowledge, we can determine the correct position of the mainspring by checking the catch on the barrel shaft. It must correspond precisely with the hook on the mainspring. Now we can move on to mounting the mainspring into the barrel. First, we oil the walls of the barrel since this is an automatic winding movement. The mainspring rotates inside the barrel under high tension. Lubricating the barrel wall helps reduce friction during operation. Next, we oil the inside of the barrel itself. This ensures that as the movement runs, the oil gradually penetrates into the mainspring coils, maintaining smooth performance. I am installing the mainspring by hand, because I don't have the proper tool for this. And to be honest, it's not a new mainspring. It's probably around 60 years old, and over time it has softened slightly. A bit of dirt from my fingers won't affect its durability or the accuracy of the movement. I haven't invested in a mainspring winder because for odd springs like this, there is really no need. But if you are installing a new mainspring, it usually comes pre-packed and can be inserted directly into the barrel without ever touching it by hand. With the mainspring now seated inside the barrel, I can inspect it carefully for any remaining debris. Once it's clean, I oil the hole for the barrel shaft to ensure smooth rotation. Then I install the shaft itself. Next, I apply a second layer of oil. this time directly onto the mainspring. It's important to be conservative here. Too much oil can seep out of the barrel during movement work and compromise the entire service. Once the mainspring is properly seated and oiled, I apply a small amount of grease to the opposite side of the barrel shaft. Next, I install the barrel cover. I'm using a specialized tool for this step, which makes it easier to press the cover evenly into place. But if you don't have one, you can improvise by securing the barrel inside a pair of tweezers and gently pressing cover in. With that done, we can move on to assembling and oiling the gear train and the barrel bridge. In this video, I will focus on sharing some tips, tricks and technical insights to help you understand the process better. If you are looking for a full step-by-step guide, I upload a dedicated ASMR video, so check my channel page. Next, we move on to the click spring and the click itself. Now this part can be especially tricky for beginners. The click spring is tiny, really tiny, and any lapse in concentration can send it flying into the abyss. Trust me, it's a rite of passage. If you haven't built up the muscle memory or experience yet, one trick is to hold the click spring with your fingernail. Just make sure you are wearing finger coats to avoid transferring any skin oils onto the movement. And don't forget to apply grease to the click. It might seem like a small thing, but trust me, it's absolutely critical. I've seen movements where the entire plate had to be replaced because the click was running dry and completely wore it down. So a tiny dab of grease here can save this piece of watchmaking history. Next, we move on to the ratchet wheel, the one responsible for winding the mainspring, and the crown wheel, which is really special. The crown wheel is mounted on a ball bearing. That's incredibly unusual for a 60-year-old movement. Today, if a brand came up with this kind of solution, they would be shouting about it in every press release. I think one brand actually did something similar recently, but I am not entirely sure. Maybe some of you remember it. Now we flip the movement over to the dial side. First we oil the jewels, just a small amount to ensure smooth operation without flooding. Next we begin assembling the mechanism responsible for the crown positions. It functions much like a gearbox in a car, connecting one wheel to different components depending on the select position. In this movement, the first crown position engages the winding gears. The second activates the time setting mechanism, and the third triggers the quick set date function. Each position shifts the interaction between components, allowing the crown to precisely control different parts of the movement. With that assembled, we can move back to the other side of the movement. You will notice we can already wind the mainspring. The ratchet wheel is responsible for this. It rotates the barrel arbor and stores energy in the mainspring. But once I stop holding the wheels, all that energy from the mainspring is transmitted through the gear train. So we need something to regulate that energy. and that's where the pallet fork and balance wheel come in. The pallet fork moves left and right, back and forth. It has specially designed slot which interacts with the jewel mounted under the balance wheel. As the pallet fork strikes the balance wheel jewel, it sets the balance wheel into oscillation. That motion is regulated by the hairspring, which acts like a mechanical heartbeat, returning the balance wheel back and forth in perfect timing. This is how the force stored in the mainspring is released in controlled, measured pulses, powering the movement with precision. With that done, I am now moving on to oiling the balance wheel jewels. These jewels sit beneath the shock protection spring, which is safeguard for the pivots of the balance wheel from impacts and vibrations that occur during everyday wear. Proper lubrication here ensures smooth oscillation and longevity of the movement. A tiny drop of oil, just enough to coat the pivot without flooding the jewel, is all it takes to keep the heartbeat of the watch ticking with precision. Now let's move on to the clutch. Yes, there is a clutch in a watch movement. It's called the cannon pinion. Quite different from the clutch in a car, but it serves a similar purpose: controlled engagement. The cannon pinion sits on the center wheel, which we can also call the minute wheel, since it drives the minute hand. What makes the cannon pinion special that it allows us to set the hands manually without disrupting or damaging the gear train. From here we move on to the other hand setting gears which coordinate the motion of the hour and minute hands. And next we dive into the date mechanism, which is very clever here. You can see that lever with a spring. It interacts with the date hammer, which is mounted on a gear with a slotted hole. That slot allows a bit of play in the hammer's movement. As the hammer approaches the date tooth, it slides to the end of the slot. At that moment, the lever pushes the hammer forward and the date snaps into place instantly, not gradually over minutes like in some other movements. Let's assemble the remaining parts: the plate, date jumper and date wheel. Remember the pinion on the stem from part 1 of the video? Now if we look under the date wheel, we can see the teeth that engage with it. This is how the quick change date mechanism works in this movement. Next we flip to the other side of the movement to work on the automatic winding system, starting with oiling it and mounting its backplate onto the movement. Now onto the special gears for the automatic mechanism. They need extra treatment. They get a Teflon coating done by immersing them in a special solution and then evaporating it. That leaves a thin layer of Teflon on and inside the gears, improving durability and reducing friction. These gears work like a ratchet spanner. They let the rotor wind the mainspring, but not turning it when the movement is wound via the crown. There are 2 of them, so the rotor winds the mainspring in both directions of its rotation. Now onto the rotor. I'm just oiling it for now, since it would get in the way during the next steps. I will install it later once the movement is inside the case. The movement is serviced, so now it's time to test it. It runs pretty well from the start, but let's fine-tune it. Moving the polished lever on the balance wheel adjusts the rate. Shifting the matte lever changes the bit error. That's the position of the balance jewel between the pallet fork horns. After that, I can move on to last thing to do with the movement, which is mounting the hour wheel and the brass washer or spring. It keeps the hour hand stable and prevents vertical wobble. Then we place the dial and secure its pins with screws on the side of the movement. Then I mount the hands, aligning them precisely at 12 o'clock, because let's be honest, anything less than perfect would haunt me in my sleep. With that done, I place the movement into the case ring and secure it inside the case. Next up, case clamps. These little heroes ensure the movement stays firmly attached to the case ring. Once everything's aligned and snug, it's time to move on to the crown. First, I grease the crown tube to protect the case from leaks, because water damage is the villain in every watchmaker's horror story. Now I move on to the special pinion that controls the quick set date function. It's not exactly plug and play, but with calmness and steady hands and maybe a deep breath or two, it slides perfectly into place. Once aligned, I secure it with the circlip, and yes, it's as satisfying as it sounds. Next, we mount the rotor we oiled earlier. Just 2 screws and it's locked securely in place. It will rotate smoothly until its next scheduled service, roughly 5 years from now. Alright, now we move on to the case back gasket. First, I apply a light coat of a grease to ensure a proper seal. Then I place it into the case and screw in the case back. The final step is tightening the bezel with more tension than finger strength alone. This helps prevent any water from leaking into the case. And just like that, another watch restoration comes to an end. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.